friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead. I made bread today, and I noticed I'm getting a little low on my yeast. And not really low, but I mean, it's a little low. I don't know when I'm going to go to the bulk store again. So I decided to make some sourdough starter and see how long I can keep one batch of sourdough starter going. Because apparently you can do this from generation to generation. Now, the very first time I made sourdough starter, I did it without yeast, but I'm cheating today. So I'm going to use about a half a tablespoon of yeast. This is really easy, folks. And we're going to put in 2 cups of flour. I should be using my funnel, I guess, my canning funnel. And 2 cups of warm water. Now you may wonder why I'm using such a large jar. Well, this stuff bubbles, eh? So I wanted to make sure that it doesn't overflow. Now I'm just going to shake this up, just like that. Then, oh, and you're going to need a little piece of cheesecloth. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lid out, and I'm just going to cover this with a piece of clean cheesecloth, and I'm just going to screw that down. Now I'm just going to let this sit for 5 to 8 days and hope that it'll all come back nice and bubbly. You want it to be in a warm place. So for now, I'm just going to put it on the back of my stove. Okay, let's make some sourdough bread. Now, this is our starter that we started yesterday, and it's looking really lovely. So let's get a measuring cup, and first and foremost, we're going to put a half a cup of milk in this saucepan over here, and we're going to warm it up. This is my goat's milk from Blossom. We're going to warm it up with 2 tablespoons of butter. You can scald it and let it cool down, but I'm just going to warm it up. Then we're going to take 1 cup of our sourdough starter. There's a half a cup, whoops. And we're going to do another half a cup. Now it's important, folks. Wow, is this ever stringy? And look at all that wonderful gluten-y, stringy stuff. Now, it's important that when you use whatever amount you use of your sourdough starter, you replace it. So, while our milk warms up, I've got to, yes, I know, I have my workstation over at the other side isn't ready yet. We're going to break up another jar of our flour. And yes, I showed you how to do it with the rolling pin, but you can also, and I don't know why I didn't think of this first, you can also break up your canned flour with the S-blade in your food processor. And that breaks our flour up just lovely. Now that we have our flour broke up and our milk is cooling, we have to replace what sourdough we've used. So here I've got about a cup of warm water, and I'm going to add just a little bit of sugar, and that'll help keep the yeast activated, maybe a teaspoon of sugar. And then I'm just going to add, now here I'm going to do it again, I'm going to get the funnel this time. Okay, and to this, we're just going to add about the same equal amount of water, or flour, excuse me. Equal amount of flour. We're just going to shake this up. And we're going to get a spatula. And we're just going to pour this fresh starter. It's a good thing I make bread every day. to pour this in here. Now, sourdough really kind of needs to be used every day and freshened every day. All right, so we're going to take our spatula there, mix it in with the yesterday's sourdough. And I don't know why I didn't do this yesterday. I've dampened my cheesecloth. Give it a shake without trying to get it on the cheesecloth. And then we're just going to set it back on the back of the stove for tomorrow. Now, on with making the bread. Now, if you're not sure about your sourdough, go ahead and add some yeast. But I'm not going to, because the whole point of this is to not use yeast, except that I cheated in the first starter. But just going to put this on stir, and I'm going to add a cup of flour. Now this is just a single loaf recipe. Geez, how did that lump escape? This is just a single recipe. So there's 1 cup. We're going to add about a half a teaspoon of salt. And then we're going to turn it up to 2. Let's see if our milk's cooled down any. We don't want this too hot. So let's add another cup of our half whole wheat, half all-purpose. If I can get it, I like to use half whole wheat, half unbleached. So we've got 1 cup of starter, half a cup of milk, 2 tablespoons of butter, a teaspoon of salt, and probably about 3 cups of flour. I've put in 2. There, our milk's now just warm. So let's pour our milk and butter in there. And 1 more cup of flour. And we are going to let this knead for about 5 minutes. Alrighty. It looks done. So here we have our nice ball of sourdough. We're going to put it in a buttered bowl. And we're just going to cover it with a clean cloth. And we're just going to let this rise until it doubles in bulk. Alrighty. Our sourdough has risen somewhat. We're just going to punch it down. And then we're just going to shape it into a round loaf. Can you pass me that green knife out of the bin there, dear? There it is. It's on the plate. I've cut an X in it. Just for aesthetics. We're going to pop the bowl over it. And we're going to I'm actually going to put the cloth over it too to keep the heat in. And we're going to let that rise. And then we'll bake it. And we will have sourdough bread with our supper. Alrighty, there's our sourdough bread. And if I'd have been thinking, I would have buttered the bowl and raised it right in the bowl. But it's in a pie plate. Just, ooh, cut into this sourdough bread. Oh, that's hot. Maybe if I do it this way, it'll squish less. Ooh, maybe not. Want a piece? Want to try a piece hot?
Some butter.
Well, of course, with butter. Oops. Piece of butter wrapper in there. A sourdough bread. There you go. Anyway, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our half-acre homestead saying, sourdough bread. It's going to be daily in this house.